know about this poem?
I know it's considered difficult to sustain.
Well, that's the song.
The poem I don't know much about.
Yeah. You know very much about Rückert?
No.
Rückert is a poet that you find in Lieder, really first in Schubert. He did a set of poetry called Östliche Rosen, which was published in 1822, and Schubert must somehow have got a copy hot off the press because he set 6 songs, including Du bist die hohe Geistergesang, Lachen und Weinen, Sei mir bewusst. And these are supposed to be poems in imitation of Persian poetry.
Okay.
Eastern Persian poetry. The great fashion for this type of poetry, well, it's a great movement. Hammer Pogstall had been the first great scholar to translate Hafiz from Persia. And Goethe had very quickly written the Westöstliche Divan. The Westöstliche Divan is a collection of poetry from West and East. So Goethe saw it as his contribution to bringing together the West and the East. In Weimar, he'd been fascinated to hear French troops who had been militant Napoleon's troops, but who were actually Muslim or North African, speaking Arabic. And the sound of Arabic fascinated Goethe. So, although he was no Oriental scholar himself, he read Hammer Pogstall and created Zuleika and Hafiz, and of course this is a very important book for literature and for Lieder, because Schubert writes Westöstliche Divan poems, Zuleika, particularly the 2 great Zuleikas, Geheimnis, Gesunken, and Wolf too, and also a few Schumann. And Rückert was a real Oriental scholar.
Okay.
Unlike Goethe, who could speak, you know, what were Goethe's languages? He spoke French and he could read English, and he could read Italian. But Rückert spoke 27 languages. Most of them dialects of Sanskrit and Persian. He was without doubt the greatest expert in Oriental languages in the entire history of literature. His translations into German from Arabic are still considered to be beyond compare. Nobody can reach this incredible understanding of one language and put it so exactly into another.
Mm-hmm.
As well as that, he wrote 10,000 poems, many of them associated with his adoration for his wife. So we have Wienerspiel that comes from Schumann, and he also had a personal tragedy that he lost children to sickness and wrote Kindertotenlieder. And it so happens that Gustav Mahler, who did not have a very wide reading in poetry, settled on Rückert. So we get Kindertotenlieder and the 5 Rückert-Lieder of Mahler, which is, you know, Ich atme deinen Lindenduft, Mitternacht, Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen, one of the most famous of all the Rückert poems. Blicke nicht in der Lieder. So there are all these incredible Rückert settings of Mahler, but from much later. Can you tell me any sign of an Oriental influence in this poem?
The first thing I would look for is the number of syllables, I think.
Well, that's if it's an imitation of something called a Ghazal, which is a particular type of Persian. You understand? This is a particular Persian where love is celebrated, where there's also a certain celebration of wine and love. So it's not particularly the Muslim faith as you and I understand it now.
Okay.
It's more Sufi, which is very different from Shia or Sunni religion of Muslim. But the word here that shows that it's Oriental is Augenzelt, a tent of your eyes.
Okay.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
And the idea of eyes being a tent so that you are looking as if you are gazing within a tent, so it has that type of focus.
Okay.
The use of tent, the idea of tent is immediately suggests something that is not Western.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow.
By the way, many of you will know the orchestra of the Westöstliche Divan from Barenboim's work. And the word divan, we use it in English to mean a sofa or a canapé. And it comes, it's an unbelievable connection. When Western traders went into Eastern countries in the 16th, 17th century, they had to sit on couches waiting for their permit. So it was like a customs house. You waited on these things, and sometimes for days, before they did the paperwork and they allowed you to go into the country and sell. And that is where the word douane comes from, customs in French. Douane is the derivation of divan. It's the place or the customs house. So, you know, this very unusual word in French actually has Arabic roots.
But it's French.
Yeah.
Yes.
Originally Arabic and then turned into French. So the old idea, very old, 16th, 17th century, came back. And this, okay. So Schubert has a very special something with Eastern poems. Although it doesn't seem so special to us today, there is a color in Eastern poems of Schubert, right? Have you ever sung the Suleika songs?
No.
Do you know about these songs of Suleika?
One of them was performed here.
There are two songs of Schubert that are long, wonderful songs for soprano, amongst the greatest and the most important. And it's the Eastern, first of all, Suleika in the East. Here's the east wind coming with a message. It begins like this, it's this wonderful description of east wind. Because now we have so much language, so much harmony, it doesn't strike us as particularly unusual. Mm-hmm. But some of the harmonic progressions are quite exotic by Schubert standards. And that's one of the reasons why. All right, now, there's a lot to say about this, but let's first of all hear what you've done with it.
Bist
I mean, you know, I'm sorry to say, if you come in a Masterclass, you must expect me to kvetch, right? But in fact, that's what we do. But on the whole, very good. I mean, many of the things that make this difficult or wrong for young singers. It was an extremely beautifully played introduction, perhaps the best I've heard from someone of your age. Here and there, sometimes I just wish that some of your singing would be less effortful, as if your voice would move a little bit more easily. It's like trying to park a rather large car in a small space. I don't know whether it needs to have so much weight, whether it's a technical question. I mean, I don't know your voice. Nice to hear you have the A flats, because up to this moment I haven't heard anything so high from you. That's the highest notes that I've heard since we've been working together.
Yes.
The voice sounds so dark at the bottom sometimes that I wonder if you can get up there, but you do.
Okay.
Do you have a C?
Yeah. I would in this piece sing C, but yeah. Not so slowly.
I'm just trying to talk about your voice. What sort of arias do you find comfortable?
Wow. Comfortable, the last comfortable aria I sang was Donna Elvira Mitradi.
Yeah. And
before that, the Gounod's Gretchen.
Well, Mitradi is soprano, but it's lower soprano, because he wrote, as you know, Donna Anna for the higher soprano.
Yeah.
Donna Elvira is often done by high mezzos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things for high mezzo are very comfortable for me, so because then I can reach the low and use the low to sound better on the high mezzo.
Yeah. It's always difficult about people who are happy in the leader band and not so happy in the operatic, because in this world, for whatever reason, you earn the right to sing leader by succeeding in opera. Do not ask me why. I don't think it's fair. Why should Renée Fleming have the right to do a leader recital when she's not a very good reciterist, you know, in my opinion, of this repertoire? Not at all. There are a few people who've managed to really specialize with the leader repertoire in history. Eleanor Gerhardt, who was a great German singer of the 1930s, sang no opera, but that was because of her size. Jessie Norman sang very little opera, but did many, many recitals. Gerard Souzet did a great many recitals, but very few pieces of opera. With Fischer-Dieskau, he sang opera, but it was always, in a sense, proving to himself that he could do it. And in certain roles he was very good, like Manrique in Arabella, and in certain roles, like Hansa, it's not good. The only singer I can think of who actually made a career entirely of leader was Ellie Ameling. And she was a Dutch singer who had unbelievable ability to work, getting work around the world in small halls. So there is no town in the world she hasn't performed in the smallest hall with the most terrible piano. But she kept busy. The trouble is getting work if you're only leader.
Yes.
That's the tough thing. But I think the ideal is to be like Ludwig or Schwarzkopf or many of these, or Seyfried, where everybody had operatic and then everybody said, oh, we loved her so much in opera, we want to see her alone. And that's how the market tends to work. Anyway, let's just get back to do this too. Thank heavens you didn't do it too slowly.
Oh, good.
Which is a really common problem with this. How did you come across this tempo? Did you work hard towards it, or was it a natural thing?
I tried working both very fast and also very extremely slow. Yeah. And then whatever was comfortable, I went with it.
So you told the tempo to the pianist? Well,
we worked enough to figure it out together.
Yeah.
It has to be slow enough to feel floating, I think.
Yeah.
But not dead. So.
Exactly. And that's what I admire about this conclusion. You've got very good Edith's singing instincts.
Thank you.
You know, you have, what comes across with you is that you have an idea of leader and a sense of what it is, and a sense of having been in this world a bit. You know what I mean? Which is good.
Okay.
Let me just, I'll come over and say a few things. Okay.
To sing to?
So it's about your temper that I like. With these arguments, you were playing as if there was no breath issue. So, as the singer's breath goes, you have to go with it. You have to actually realize that it is a finite quantity, that it's not going to last forever. So when I play this, I play... Sorry. We have to be like a wave that takes the surfer to the beach. Sometimes. They don't notice that you are moving forward because it sounds natural on the breath, but actually that is where you actually have to help the singer with the breath. They are going and the breath is traveling. And you have to be like this water, moving with it. And only in these long phrases, I'm not talking about in short phrases, du bist die Route, it's just the short phrase. But it's a question of when they have long notes and you are going, you can always tell if the pianist is listening to the breath. I never need to see my singer's breath, I hear the breath. So I never need to go. So you don't do that either. You have a very natural feeling for this. But don't think of this song as being static or sad. It is a salute of happiness. And just because Ruhe and Frieda doesn't mean comatose. Die Sehnsucht du und was sie stillt. You are both exciting and what satisfies excitement. That is the most wonderful description of any sexual partner. Die Sehnsucht du und was sie stillt. You both create desire and you slake desire. That's an word you don't know in English, meaning to slake, to satisfy, like quench the thirst. And on the stage, you must move forward. You see, you're going to the do was too long for my tempo. job is to carry her through these phrases, be certain that she has just a little bit of time to breathe. So, it's knowing where the breath is, and then when the breath is, coming in. And when she has Ich weihe dir voll Lust und Schmerz, if one's going, making beautiful sounds, it doesn't help her. She's got to feel like that pas de deux, that ballet thing I was describing, that I am under her, my hand is going under the piano and supporting her. So everything she does is my concern. Everything, it's like driving a big lorry on the motorway. You are looking at everything. You're not just thinking here. And it's sometimes the easiest pieces. This piece is not hard technically, but it requires beautiful tone, which you have, and it requires great evenness of technique, which you have. But what is not happening now is an understanding exactly of what she's going through. And how do you get that, do you think? How does one acquire that?
I don't have enough experience with playing with singers.
No.
So
You need to play, you need to go and ask to play for singing teachers. And sight reading, very good for your sight reading if it's not already very good. I'm sure it's very good. But the teachers sit, they need a pianist, and you are singing and the singers, and then you hear the lessons. You hear the technique, you hear the changes in the technique, you hear what problems they have, and you get to know the repertoire at the same time, and you just sit, and they tell you things, and then you realize what you have to say to singers to remind them, and that is the only way to do it. So, you know, sometimes they pay you if you're lucky, sometimes they don't pay you, but the best singing teachers, and for you to just simply say, can I play for your lessons? Very often this is what singing teachers really need. Someone who is prepared to play the piano for lessons. But by doing that, you suddenly realize what people are going through. And the singers, the teacher said, no! And you think, oh, but I thought that was nice. And they said, no, you're not supporting it, and then you learn. That's the way of doing it. I sat for years with various singing teachers, very interesting. Different techniques, different approaches, different attitudes. Some people going one way, like a doctor having one idea, another having another idea. But it's the way to do it. And also you meet there people who like your playing and say, will you play with me more? It's the way of making contacts. It's the way of meeting people. All right. Let's just go on from here.
Second verse.
Thank you.
reality, you should be able to do, in reality, the best people do that all in one.
Okay.
And not glance a line. But in a way, that's, as a demonstration, dies Augen zählt, von ist nichts, is not an important word. Dies Augen zählt, von deinem Glanz allein erhält. Zählt, hält, rhyming. Dies Augen zählt, so dies Augen zählt, von dein zu The tradition is to do the first A flat loud and the second one softer. You did it the other way around, did you?
I'm just trying to do it very softly both times, I think.
Well, you see, there is both times. The first time there's a forte without a innuendo.
Okay.
So actually do it louder the first time and keep that innuendo for the second time.
Okay.
These are